All right. So do you want to jump to the next depressing?
Yeah.
Thing we're gonna talk about?
Yeah, we're like it's a little uncharacteristic
little
for
dark,
us.
yeah.
Usually a little darker. Usually we're very three guys having a good time.
Yeah,
American spunk fun. You guys will get those references later, but usually, yeah, we're kind of the happy-go-lucky vibe, or we're just kind of cynical and shit nonstop.
Right.
But so
today we're genuinely sort of
it's just kind of somber, kind of a somber mood. Just kind of a weird vibe. But we had planned about a week ago on doing this podcast, and we like to stick to our schedule, and I think it's kind of cool. Like you get to see what's going on in our head right now.
Yeah, it's definitely. I didn't anticipate it being like this, but it's going to be like this. We saw Hereditary just like an hour ago, not even.
Yeah, not Hereditary. I'll let Emmett start with that one.
So Max actually warned me about this last night, but I didn't really take it to heart. That sort of the fear and the anxiety and the anguish that you feel is super real and close to home. It's not necessarily. Yeah, the thing that scared me most had nothing to do with any of the normal cliches like monsters or ghosts, anything goofy like that. That's normally a fun scare. At least most people I know, when they think of, hey, I want to go to a scary movie, they think of all those sort of faraway fears.
Paranormal Activity.
Those very fantastical things.
Or like The Conjuring.
Yeah, but at least the scariest scene to me, and I think for you as well, was something that could very, very well happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was executed really, really well and very realistically.
So
yeah, and that's what made it so, like, when it's going down, you don't believe it, and you're sort of right there with the people that are experiencing it. This was an example of a movie that had a pretty basic and straightforward idea, and plot, but the execution was just so masterful. Yeah.
When I watch a horror movie, generally, I'm usually not a fan. I like a lot of the classic horror films, but generally, a lot of the stuff produced within the last 10 years, I think, is just generally terrible. Yeah. You get a lot of that stuff like The Conjuring and Paranormal Activity, and even It and movies like that. I'm just not impressed. It's generally 9 times out of 10 with movies like that. They just try too hard. There's usually jump scares, and there's the little girl with long hair over her face and a robe in the corner. Right. Jump scares and screams, and it's so typical and cliche, and it's just there to make a bunch of teenagers jump in their seats, and it just seems cheap. And I know what they're doing. I mean, they're making a horror film, and it's supposed to have scares, and it's the formula, and it's boring to me, and I'm not ever impressed by those films. So this one, I don't think I even watched an entire trailer all the way through. I kind of went in with very minimal expectations.
Yeah, me too.
And I didn't really know exactly what I was getting into, and I kind of thought, it might be another, kind of Conjuring type movie, and I thought, well, there's a very high probability this is probably going to suck, but let's give it a shot. Yeah. And but I trust these guys' judgment, and I went in with an open mind. And I can honestly say it was one of the most unsettling films I think I've ever seen. It was a success. It definitely achieved its goal of freaking me out. So I'm not in any way trashing it. It was a good movie in terms of making me feel something. It definitely made me feel a lot of things. Mm-hmm. There were a few parts in there where you look at it, and some of the choices that they made were a little odd, and a few things here and there where I was like, oh, this could get cheesy very fast. But it didn't. Partway through, without telling you too much, because there were a few parts that made me snicker and kind of giggle, and both of us were kind of giggling in the beginning, just kind of the typical kind of goofy stuff that they add.
Right, yeah,
totally. And kind of some of the lines were kind of weird in the beginning, and it was, kind of goofy. And then I'd say, maybe 40 minutes in, 30 minutes in, it got very, 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 very dark.
Yeah.
Like to the point where I cringed. I mean, and usually I don't have that response with movies. I mean, once in a blue moon, a movie will come along that hits me like that and really freaks me out, and this is one of them. Like Emmett said, it's a lot of the stuff in the movie was unsettling because, in a worst case scenario, it could happen, and it was more of a personal fear.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and if we're giving it the good to go, and I mean, yeah, you make a good point saying we were snickering in the beginning, because I think we always go, especially with horror movies, we always go in like trying to run the other way and trying to like tear it down. You're like, oh, this stupid thing.
Yeah,
this dumb movie.
And that's exactly how we started.
Yeah, that's exactly how we started.
And then yeah, and I would, and it's crazy because this is so rare for me. Usually this doesn't happen with movies like this, but it literally made me physically ill. Like there's a scene that happens partway in that's very, very horrific and graphic and just unnerving. And it made me feel like I was going to throw up. I almost thought for a second, man, I need to get up and go to the bathroom and vomit. Like, it was like, at that point, I stopped drinking my soda, and I was like, I don't even like the taste of this right now. This is, like, disgusting what I'm watching. and there was a whole sequence. I don't want to tell you guys too much if you haven't seen it, because it's still fresh. But I will say it centers around a vehicle. And the character that we're watching, there's a whole sequence that happens after this event that's just so intense. It's one of the most intense scenes I've seen in a long time. Yeah. And it's not just the actual event that happens, but everything that happens for the next like 8 minutes after it. You just feel the character's anxiety, and it's almost palpable.
Yeah, yeah. I think in a big pitfall for a lot of movies, at least in the writing and sort of in the acting realm as well, is characters will say and or do things that seem either unbelievable or just sort of neutral. Like you're not there with them. They don't seem like a fully realized human being. It's sort of static and it's sort of cushioned for your viewability. But in this case, everything that was done, during the whole event and afterwards seemed exactly like what a real person would do in that situation, at least to me. And I think that's what made it so fucking terrifying. Yeah. Because you were 100% engaged. You were 100% like you believed it was happening right before your eyes, and you were a part of it.
It was able to go from tearing it down, kind of treating it just like any other cliche horror movie, into actually being engaged and like wondering, oh my god, what's going to happen next, and cringing. Yeah. And all I can say is it probably a one-time watch for me. I don't think I would ever go out of my way to watch that movie again, just because it was so unsettling. Yeah. The only thing I can equate it to is like a very bad nightmare that you wake up from, and you're like, "Fuck, I'm so glad I woke up from that." It kind of has that feel kind of throughout the entire film, and it really just kind of turned my stomach. And I'm not saying that's a negative about the film. Like it succeeded. Yeah. It succeeded in making me feel kind of freaked out and kind of sick and a little nervous. Like it was a success, definitely. So if you like that kind of stuff, definitely go see it. But for me personally, I'd probably never watch it again, just because it was so unsettling and freaky and kind of weird and made me feel ill. Yeah. Yeah, I think the other two movies that I sort of equated it to, at least for the feeling afterward, was and they're both, I guess you would call it horror, but Nocturnal Animals. We always talk about that one. Yeah, that one definitely left us feeling like super depressed for the rest of the night. Yeah. And then It Comes at Night also made us feel really depressed. I remember me and Ben and Maxwell had to sort of walk that one off. Literally, we just we took a long walk and chilled. Yeah. And this one as well. This one hits you like a ton of bricks. Ones that have really left me leaving the theater feeling kind of just weird, like I have to shake it off for a day or two. This one is right up there. Yeah. Nocturnal Animals as well. That kind of lingered, that anxiety. Yeah. And I would also say the film Mother with Jennifer Lawrence, and Javier Bardem. I gotta check that one out. A lot. It's very 50-50. People are very divided on it. People either love it or hate it. And I thought it was a masterpiece. I mean, I went in, same thing with the movie Mother, expecting just another mediocre, weird haunted house movie, and it would just turn to shit. Totally blew my mind, man. It was like a film acid trip, nightmare. I don't know what you want to call it. It was very abstract and very out there and very, very, very depressing and dark. And so, my top 3 for unsettling films would be, Mother, Nocturnal Animals, and Hereditary. Yeah. Yeah. Was it Hereditary or Hereditary? Hereditary, yeah. Just sickening. Yeah. And the other thing that I was afraid of, at least in the first act, I guess, if you want to use the correct terms or whatever. Oh, baby, dropping his phone. It's all good. But so a lot of I sometimes you go on
At least I do. Late at night, I'll go on Netflix and I'll check out all the horror movies. And I feel like the problem a lot of them has is that it really forces to maintain a dark and depressing tone, even when it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so you end up having characters that are just sort of like sad for no reason. And that's just for the sake of keeping the tone. And it gets kind of like, ooh, I don't know if people really do behave like this. And they're always just sad and mopey constantly. I mean, I guess if like you have depression or whatever and that's the point, then that's fine. But it's clear to me that the directors are, that's just their cheap way of trying to make it horror and dark is, keeping the tone down like that. And I was afraid this one was going to have that happen as well because a lot of it was super, super, super dark. But there was just enough light for it to feel real. There were a couple scenes that weren't dark or scary or whatever, mostly toward the beginning, and there was enough interaction with the outside world for it to be, real. Because a lot of horror films as well will sort of keep the story and the magnification to just that one character, and they're sort of like alone, maybe being sad around their house like the whole movie, and they don't interact with the outside world at all. But the family is mom and dad and 2 kids, so the kids go to school and everything, so it makes sense. And then the fear and the anguish and the sadness they all go through is sort of justified. So I think that the tone was perfect against the plot and everything that was happening, and it made sense. It all made sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah, very dark.
Yeah.
If you like that kind of stuff, or you're looking for a different kind of horror movie, definitely not for the faint of heart. Like, definitely don't take kids to that shit.
Yeah.
But it's totally unique and very, very unsettling.
Right, yeah. And the title was interesting because the title makes sense, but it also sort of, the terminology throws you off just enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because Hereditary, you start to think like, science, biology, something like that.
Yeah.
And it still applies, definitely, but not in the way you're probably thinking. And I like that a lot. And that's a big issue a lot of people had with It Comes at Night, because it makes it seem like there's going to be a big monster that comes. But it was more of a metaphorical fear that comes at night in that movie, and that's what made a lot of people pissed, and that made me angry that they were angry. A lot of the comments I saw in all the trailers for that great film, that I thought it was a great film, were like, oh, this movie 0 out of 10, no CGI monster. Like, literally, they were angry because they didn't see this.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess if you're going to the movie just because you want to see that, that's fine, but...
If you want to see The Conjuring 2, Marilyn Manson, Nun.
But, yeah, so, I mean, that being said, watch Hereditary with 0 expectations, and that's how we went into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I notice I've been doing that more and more, I think, because so many trailers have a tendency to give away way too much in the trailer.
Yeah.
Because I think they assume that the audiences are really dumb and they need to spoon feed them all the information possible and show them all the info in the trailer. I hate that.
Right.
I really like a good teaser trailer. I like a really good one that just gives you just a hint. And you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to go see that. But a lot of times they're scared that people are going to miss the point and not go see it, and they're not going to make money, so they throw a lot of information into the trailers.
Right, yeah.
I get why they do it, but sometimes, it is too much. And even sometimes in YouTube comments, people who see the pre-screenings and stuff will spoil shit. And I'm like, son of a bitch.
You gotta watch out for that.
And I hate that. I'm like,
yeah.
So more and more I find myself, if I like, the poster and the concept, or if I happen to see a trailer, I try not to dive too deep into it. I'm like sometimes I'll watch them on YouTube or whatever, and I'll be like, okay, this looks cool,
right.
a minute and a half in, I'm not going to watch the full 3 minutes,
Max?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Max was actually excited for this. He's been excited for this thing for like 3 months now or so. He's been on top of this.
This one?
Yeah, I think as soon as it debuted at Sundance, he was like, this looks amazing, we gotta check it out. So,
cool.
I mean, Ben and I went into this with no expectations, but Max went into it expecting a hell of a lot, and he'd been waiting for it for a while, and he was also blown away as well.
Yeah, he was
really, really
he was a big advocate of it.
This was actually his second time watching it.
Yeah.
He liked it so much he wanted to go check it out again.
It's only been out for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
The man's on top of it.
Yeah. But no, yeah, it is that good, but just, do beware that when you go to see it, you're not going to sort of enter another world and be thrilled. You're going to be fucking sad, and it's going to hit you real close.
It's going to bring you down. It's it's like trying to eat popcorn at a wake, man. It's yeah. Like I said, it killed my appetite completely.
Yeah.
I didn't even finish my drink.
Yeah.
But
So sorry.
It's okay.
R.I.P. Ben Stirek.
It's okay. R.I.P. Steve.
R.I.P. Steve.